In today's video, it is the official recap video, official 2025 season recap for the LSU Tigers. LSU, of course, finishing off their season, technically finishing their season with the final game, the bowl game against Houston this past weekend. Of course, I did sort of talk about, if you saw my Saints review video, which of course was my last video, talked about that I was going to do some sort of recap video for the LSU season. That's, of course, is what I'm doing right here today. So that's, of course, what today's video, what we'll be talking about. We'll mostly just be going over what happened during the season, kind of go sort of game by game, not go into details about every game, but just kind of go on what sort of happened, what the thoughts and all that going through each game, and then we'll do sort of the player stats as well, and give you guys my thoughts on, of course, how the rest of the season went. Or how the season went, I should say, actually. Of course, before we go into the video, welcome everybody to the BrewCrew channel, of course. If you guys are new to the channel or haven't yet on the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell for future upcoming videos here on the BrewCrew channel, as I do football content like this, and of course some wrestling content as well. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and just get right into the video. Of course, we're going to just go ahead and just start off and go each game, go by the season, and of course, it was just a crazy season for the LSU Tigers. We came into this season, the off season, pretty hyped. You know, we were pretty hyped coming into this season. We were favored to be one of the big playoff teams, favored to be up there with Ole Miss and Georgia and even Alabama to fight for the SEC. Some people even thinking they could win the SEC. You know, there was a lot of sort of hype going into it. Garrett Nussmeier had himself hype of being, of course, a top contender for the Heisman Trophy, even being the winner by some people as well. So there was a lot of hype going into this season, especially hype by me, that I was definitely looking forward to. And of course, we go into the first game against Clemson, and there was some pretty good stuff. I mean, the final score, yes, was 17-10. There was some stuff from our offense that we definitely hoped we needed to get work on, especially a little bit of the performance by Garrett Nussmeier a little bit and some other offensive players as well. But we kind of kept saying, like, it's just week one, and we came out with the win. First win in week one after losing the past 5 years since after our national championship run. So finally breaking that streak, that was, of course, a really good moment. And our defense was one of the best things. You know, Blake Baker showed that he is a great defensive coordinator, and we have some really great star defensive players. This was also the first game we saw Monsieur Delane kind of solidify himself as a top defensive back in the nation. So there was a lot of good stuff that happened. But of course, the questions were still, especially for the offense, is can we get something going? And then, of course, the next week we get the win against Louisiana Tech, but only 23-7 was the score, and we struggled shockingly. Like, you would think against a group of 5 team like Louisiana Tech, that you would put up about maybe 40, maybe even 30 points. But throughout the time when I was watching this game, our offense just wasn't clicking. But a little bit of me was saying, like, it's just week 2. Maybe we can get something going. We'll get something changed. There is some bright spots still. And another thing was Garrett Nussmeier wasn't playing like a Heisman contender like he was thought to be. And so I think some fans, but especially me personally, was like, it's just week 2. We'll see how next week is. Next week, of course, was the first SEC conference opener game against Florida. Of course, we know how that game went. Defense dominated that game. 5 interceptions, 5 turnovers against DJ Lagway. But even with us getting the turnovers, this is sort of the first game that sort of started the theme a little bit, is that when our defense did something good and did something good that could turn around the game for us or help us extend the game, our offense would not capitalize on it. And that's sadly what happened in this game. Yes, we still put up 20 points and we still got the win, but there were still major questions about this offense, especially with the run game, with the blocking, and with Garrett Nussmeier throwing. And I believe I don't know if it was during this time or when it was during the season, that we started noticing that there was the rumors of him having an abdominal injury that apparently he didn't suffer during the game. He's actually been dealing with since the off season. So I think we actually noticed about that during the off season. I can't remember when we first noticed about it. So a lot of people thought that that was one of the reasons why he wasn't playing like he was playing that we thought he would. Because he had a great junior year, and we thought if he could fix up the interceptions, the turnovers, and fix up his passing and his decision making, he could definitely be a top quarterback in the nation this season in his final year with the Tigers. But that's not really been prevailing, of course, at this point with Florida. And then, of course, we have Southeastern, a game that I went to. Of course, I did a vlog about it. If you guys have not seen it, maybe I'll put it down in the link put it down in the description below if you guys want to go check it out. Of course, just a little vlog video that I did when I went to go see it with my parents, with my mom and dad. Of course, that was definitely a great time, great experience. Of course, first game in a while that I went to. So if you guys want to check that video out, definitely go check it out. I'll leave a link to it in the description below if you guys want to go check it out. So definitely do that. Of course, this game, the only game of the season where we put up 50 plus points. Mind you, yes, this was against Southeastern. Garrett Nussmeier had a really good game, but then it was like, well, yeah, they finally played productive, especially on offense, and we go 4-0. We go 4-0. We're top 3 in the nation, top 4, and we're still looking like a playoff team. But there's the questions of, like, does this team make the playoffs solely based on their defense? Well, finally, we got to a point in the season where, of course, we finally faced Ole Miss, who at the point was number 13, and it was a back-and-forth game, but Ole Miss prevailed and got the win 24-19, and there was a lot of still questions, especially about the offense. The defense had some good moments, but they just could not stop Chambliss and the rest of this Ole Miss offense, who was really good. The question was, of course, with our offense of trying to capitalize off the defense's success and try to get the lead back or try to get the win. And there was still questions with Garrett Nussmeier. We get the win back against South Carolina, who is definitely a team that we should also put up at least close to 30 because of how bad they were during the season. But we made them sort of stay in it a little bit, especially against their defense. And it was just continuing to show questions. And of course there was questions also being asked about Brian Kelly with his coaching. And Garrett Nussmeier's playing, and there was just a lot of questions being asked around this point. And then, of course, the 3-game stretch, which at the point was one of the toughest 3-game stretches that we went on to have. First against Vanderbilt on the road. We lose that one in a close one, 31-24. Nussmeier did play a a little bit better in this one, and we did kind of stick in with Vanderbilt, but our defense could not stop Diego Pavia, though. And then, of course, the more sad one came against Texas A&M. We could not stop Marcel Reed. We allowed 49 points, which was definitely devastating. A blowout loss at home, and of course, going into this game, I think there was rumors, but I can't really fully remember if there was rumors going into this game or not. But of course, a little bit after this game, the news comes out that we full-on fire Brian Kelly. And of course, we moved to Frank Wilson to be our interim head coach, who is our running backs coach for the Alabama game. And even though, yes, we did only allow 20 points for Alabama, our offense still couldn't get anything going against that tough Alabama defense, even when we switched Michael Van Buren to play for the rest of the game. Which not only that, meaning for him to play the rest of the game, he would go on to play the rest of the season, as of course Garrett Nussmeier would still be continuing with his abdominal injury. This time sort of a little bit worse, to where he finally would be sat out and would miss a good chunk of time. Technically, of course, there was question that he would make it to that he would play that he would probably play one of the final few games, but sadly that of course does not happen. We do kind of get back in the win column with Michael Van Buren and Frank Wilson winning the Golden Boot against Arkansas. But then, of course, it was a tough win, though, against Western Kentucky. Kind of going back to what I said with Louisiana Tech, that's a team that you could have probably put up 40 or even maybe close to 50. But you only allowed them to score, 10, but they only allowed you to score 13. That is definitely disappointing, especially if you have, even though, yes, you have an interim head coach and you have a new starting quarterback, you still have a chance to put up a close to 40-something points against a team like Western Kentucky, but you didn't do that. That didn't happen. And then, of course, we lose in sort of a close one where we almost had an upset we almost had an upset to Oklahoma. We almost had an upset to Oklahoma, but we sadly lost that one 17-13. And of course, we go on, ending the regular season 7-5, go to the Texas Bowl to face a pretty good Houston team, ranked 21, 9-3 on the season. Ended up being a back and forth shootout. Of course, it was a rough loss. I don't want to say it was an embarrassing loss because I know our defense allowed 38 points, but our defense was missing some key players in that. So I don't really want to blame Blake Baker or anything. And honestly, like, I almost wasn't really expecting us to win, but I kind of got my hope up because of us going up 14-0 at one point, and that's what's going to kind of sting for me and probably some other LSU fans as well, is that we are going to have in our head that at one point we were up 14-0 in the first quarter against Houston and we blew it. So it is what it is, but that of course ends the season. Of course, at this point, kind of hitting the 11-minute mark, but we're going to go ahead and look at the stats real quick. I'm going to try my best to go through it. So final stats: passing, Garrett Nussmeier passed for 1,927 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions in the few games that he played in. In the 3-game start for Michael Van Buren, he reaches over 1,000 yards after a pretty good, solid performance in the Texas Bowl, also throwing for 8 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions in the few games as a starter. Don't really know with how the performance was, which was a solid performance. I don't really know if we do see him as the next starting quarterback, because of course probably be looking in the transfer portal and also be looking in the recruiting. Of course, I've talked about the transfer portal quarterbacks in a previous video that I did, I believe at some point last week or a couple days ago, one of my previous videos that I did. If you guys have not seen that, I highly recommend go check it out. I'll probably leave a link to that also down in the description below, so if you guys want to go check that out, definitely go do that. First, but quickly, for rushing, mostly for 2 running backs, Caden Durham had 111 carries for 505 yards and 3 touchdowns. The freshman Harlem Berry had a pretty good freshman year, 104 carries, 491 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Of course, the player who is now transferring, who's been with us for a good while, Juwan Johnson, who transitioned from quarterback to running back, he had 41 carries, 155 yards, and 2 touchdowns as well. So, of course, run game was not really great, but hopefully with this new offensive coordinator we can maybe get something going, especially also in the pass game, because man, there's a couple receivers I do kind of still want to note. First, Barry and Brown had 53 receptions, 532 yards, and 1 touchdown. The receptions and yards were the most on the team. Xavion Thomas had 41 receptions, 488 yards, and 4 touchdowns, which tied for the most by a receiver on the team. Kyle Parker also had 4 touchdowns, along with 31 receptions and 330 yards, including a pretty good breakout performance against Houston in the Texas Bowl. Aaron Anderson kind of had a down year after of course, being hyped up a little bit. He only had 33 receptions, 398 yards. The transfer Nick Anderson had a disappointing season as well, only 12 receptions for 106 yards and only 2 touchdowns though. But then finally, mostly the only star receiver or star player really was Trey'Dez Green, our tight end, who had definitely a career year, mostly in touchdowns. He had 33 receptions for 433 yards and 7 touchdowns, including 2 touchdowns in the Texas Bowl game. So all in all, I really hope, of course, with some of these receivers, and of course I believe Trey'Dez coming back next year, hopefully with the offensive mind of Lane Kiffin, and also, of course, some new, with this new offensive coordinator as well, we can get something going not only in the run game, but also in the pass game as well. But hopefully we can find ourselves a quarterback. Defense, of course, was sort of the only bright spot. The leading tackler was A.J. Hulsey, who had 89 total tackles, 4 pass deflections, and 3 interceptions, and also had a forced fumble. Devon Keys had a pretty good year as well, second most in tackles with 88 total tackles. 1 half sack, and even 2 pass deflections, and also had a forced fumble as well. West Weeks was actually the highest one out of the Weeks brothers. He had 76 total tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 1 pass deflection. Definitely, of course, a pretty solid season from him. Harold Perkins, don't know if this will be his final season, but we'll, of course, see how the offseason goes. Probably is. But Harold Perkins ended off with 55 total tackles, 4 sacks, 3 pass deflections, and 3 interceptions to potentially end off his career with LSU. Mansour Delane, of course, was definitely one of the star players on this team and was one of the top defensive backs on the team. He would go on to have 45 total tackles, 11 pass deflections, and 2 interceptions. And finally, the one player I do want to talk about, DJ Pickett, the freshman who became a freshman All-American. Mansour was a unanimous All-American at the end of the season, but DJ Pickett broke out and definitely could be a rising star on the defense. He had 35 total tackles, even had 2 sacks, and had 3 interceptions and 3 pass deflections as well. So definitely not a horrible season. And I do want to finally also say Whit Weeks, even though he did have sparing time because he also dealt with an injuries as well, he would go on to have 28 total tackles, 1 sack, 6 pass deflections, no interceptions. Deshaun Spears also was another, I believe, freshman that did have some pretty good sparing time. He was a safety, so he did kind of go back and forth with Cooley and Hulsey. But Spears did have 28 tackles, 1 sack, 2 pass deflections, and even had 2 interceptions. So definitely, of course, everybody who, of course, was on this defense did play sparingly, had, of course, some pretty good moments every now and then, but mostly, of course, we also needed to have a balanced team with our offense, with, of course, defense getting some big moments. Our offense needed to capitalize off of, but that was, of course, what the issue was. The final player I do want to talk about first, real quick, before we end it off, is, of course, the senior kicker, Damian Ramos. Only missed 1 extra point. 1 extra point this season, was 29 of 30 with his extra points. He attempted 29 field goals and made 24, 82% with his field goals, which of course included 2 50-plus yarders, one of them being from 52 yards, and had a total of 101 points from his field goals. He was perfect, though, from, of course, short distance from 1 to 19 range, and also perfect from 20 to 29. Only missed 1 from 30 to 39, and did have 10 from 40-plus yards, and of course had, again, 2 from 50, along with one of his season longs being 52. Definitely will go down as one of the best kickers in school history, as he does have a couple of school records himself. So definitely looking forward to see how his, of course, football career goes, especially if he has a chance in the NFL, of course, ending his senior year with the Tigers. So, of course, is everything, of course, my final thoughts really on this season. Of course, pretty long video, but my final thoughts on how this season went, it definitely will go down as probably one of the most overhyped, rough, disappointing, I also sort of want to say embarrassing, but mostly just disappointing seasons I have probably ever watched from LSU. Mostly just because of the amount of hype that came into this season. I want to say this is the most disappointing season since the season after we won the national title. But I don't remember any sort of hype that we had to even be a national championship team, because we lost so many great players to the draft that year. So definitely you could say that this is more disappointing than that or any other season that you can think of. But me personally, this is definitely one of the most rough and disappointing seasons that I had to watch as an LSU fan, really. And it's just mostly because of the hype, because we just didn't live up to the hype. And I mostly want to say it was probably too much hype, because I mean it was sad to even look back at that. Of course, Lee Corso, before, of course, his final college game day, Lee Corso predicted LSU to win the national championship and Garrett Nussmeier to win the Heisman. Neither of those two things have happened, so it's definitely disappointing that way when you see that someone like Lee Corso saying that they had you as the favorite to win, your team the favorite wins the national championship, and your quarterback to win the Heisman. And that, of course, didn't happen. Excuse me. But of course, definitely a rough season to watch, but it is what it is. The season's over. Finished sadly with a 7-9 record, 3-5 in the SEC. It's a sad record to see, but at least the season's over, and now we can look forward to the Lane Kiffin era. Definitely looking forward to it. Of course, keep updates and all that throughout the off season of everything as well. Of course, not saying, of course, that this is not the final video for LSU. Of course, this is just a recap video of the season. But of course, we'll be looking at everything that's going to be happening this offseason with Lane Kiffin in his first official offseason as the LSU head coach. So definitely looking forward to it, and looking forward to next season already, even though, yes, we'll have to wait a good long while. But I hope you guys are looking forward to it. Let me know in the comments down below what your guys' thoughts on this season, on this season, and also if you guys are looking forward to the Lane Kiffin era, let me know y'all's thoughts in the comments down below. Also, go check out the videos that I did mention in the description below, the vlog video from the Southeastern game, and also the transfer quarterback video that I did a while back. Definitely go check out those two videos, especially the transfer quarterback one. Definitely go check out that video. Transfer quarterback one, definitely go check that one out. Links to both, of course, will be down in the description below. And so, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Again, let me know y'all's thoughts in the comments down below. If you guys made it all this way to this part of the video, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, you guys know, as always, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell for future upcoming videos here on the BrewCrew channel. Hope you guys have an amazing, wonderful day, and also have a happy new year, as well as, of course, we're a couple of days away from the new year, so I hope you guys have a happy new year as well. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.